Thank you. Silent, you're on air.
All right, Tim, I will let you know when it's a good time to start.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead and start. We got a great turnout here.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's United Food and Commercial Workers Town Hall with UFCW President Steve Lomax, our Democratic candidate for governor, Senator Jason Carter, and our Democratic candidate for school superintendent, Valerie Wilson, to discuss the upcoming important election here in Georgia. My name is Tim Schlittner and I will be serving as your moderator. To ask any of our speakers, whether it's Senator Carter or Valerie Wilson, a question tonight, please press 0 on your keypad at any time, and you'll be connected directly with one of our volunteer operators. Again, to ask a question, simply press 0, and you'll be connected with one of our staff members. At this point, I'd like to kick it over to the president of UFCW Local 1996 and an international vice president, Steve Lomax, for some opening comments. Steve?
Thank you, Tim. I'd like to thank all of our members that have taken the time to be on the line tonight. We have a little over 3 weeks before Election Day, Tuesday, November the 4th. Early voting begins on Monday, October the 13th. It's important that all of us get out and vote this year. We have an opportunity to make positive change in Georgia for working families. There are many critical elections taking place from the top to the bottom of the ballot. We're going to have the opportunity to hear from 2 of those UFCW Local 1996 endorsed candidates tonight. First we'll hear from is State Senator Jason Carter, who is running for governor of Georgia. Jason is a longtime friend of Local 1996 and working men and women all across the state. Jason has a real vision to create jobs in Georgia and to get our unemployment down. Jason believes in training and educating the Georgia workforce for the jobs of tomorrow. He'll also invest in our children's future by supporting strong public school system. And it's my privilege to introduce my good friend, a friend of working people, Senator Jason Carter, our candidate for governor. Jason?
Thank you so much, Steve. It is a great honor for me to be here. It's an honor for me to be endorsed by y'all, and I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate all of y'all's support. I'll tell you, I don't have to tell the people on this call that working people have been left out of this, not just the state government, but the economy in Georgia for too long. We've seen wages go down in this state faster than almost any other state. The middle class has taken a giant hit, and it's almost impossible to find anybody in this capital that has any power right now that's working for the middle class. And we have taken that message out to the state. I believe this, and it has been remarkably successful. And there are a number of homes out in Georgia today that are feeling the effects of the failed policies that we have right now economically, that are ready to have a real discussion about the future. And the door is clearly open in this election for us to win. We think this election is going to be about 3 things. It's going to be about, number 1, education. You have watched over the last several years the worst contraction of public education in the history of our state. We have 9,000 fewer teachers. We have a number of school districts that have been cutting and cutting and cutting to the bone, sometimes past the bone. We have seen just a disinvestment from our people. And that has to change. I have a plan for ensuring that education gets funded, number 1. And number 2, ensuring that we have a coherent vision for our education system, which includes supporting recruiting and retaining and supporting our teacher workforce. The second issue that we all care about is the economy. As I mentioned, the middle class is still getting left out. Working families are falling farther and farther behind. It's harder to afford college, and the cost of higher education is going up faster in this state than any other. We're dead last in unemployment. We're dead last in terms of how fast we're recovering from the recession. But it doesn't have to be that way, as you all know. We can have an economic policy in this state that can make us a powerhouse, that as long as we understand that it's working people who drive the economy, which I do, And if we're supporting the middle class instead of just focusing on big business, if we're supporting small businesses, then we'll be able to charge ahead into the future. The last thing I think we all want to talk about is ethics. And what you've seen over the last several years, it's not just a culture of only supporting lobbyists, but we need a state government that's going to work for everybody, and not just the folks that can afford to send lobbyists down to the Capitol and take their legislators out for fancy meals. Number one, and number two, you've seen right now in the governor's office scandal after scandal after scandal. It doesn't have to be that way, and with the new governor, it won't be. But over the next couple of weeks, if we turn out the vote and if we do the work, we will win. And it's because of the governor's record and my vision. And if we can combine those two things and get our folks to understand just how important this election is, then Steve, we'll all be celebrating on election night, and we'll all know that we've got a governor that's going to take care of working people again. So I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate y'all's support, and I'm asking y'all to get out and help us over the next 3 weeks, because if we do it, it'll matter.
Thank you very much, Senator Carter. As a reminder, if you're on the line on tonight's UFCW Telephone Town Hall and you'd like to ask a question to the Senator, just hit 0 on your keypad to be directed to one of our volunteer operators. At this point, we're going to have our first poll question, and it is this. What can you do to help Jason Carter and the UFCW win at the ballot box this November? Press 1 if you'll make phone calls. Press 2 if you'll knock on doors. Press 3 if you'll talk to friends or family. And press 4 if you'll do all the above. Once again, we're asking what can you do to help Jason Carter this November? Go ahead.
And this is Jason Carter just campaigning for number 4.
Well, I can tell you right now that 4 is leading. So with that being said, why don't we go to our first question of the night. Again, for those of you on, if you want to ask a question, just hit 0 and you'll talk to one of our operators. Let's go to Athens, Georgia, and talk to Robert James. Robert, you're on with Senator Carter.
Hey, how you doing, Senator?
Good. How are you, Robert?
I'm good. My question is, how do you feel about right-to-work legislation?
I think that Georgia has – my record on that is clear, Robert. I think Georgia lately has been so dominated by anti-worker legislation that it's unbelievable. And I have fought that at every turn in the legislature and have stood strong against anything that has just treated that has tried to victimize unions and the right to organize.
Okay, next.
I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Senator Carter. Next, let's go to Fayetteville and talk to Debbie. Debbie, you're on with Senator Carter.
Hi, Senator Carter. This is Debbie Whipple. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thank you so much.
I am excited to say I have a yard sign in my yard. I'm excited to be a part of this team. My question tonight is, I was wondering, I have not seen your grandfather come out publicly and support you, so I was just concerned about that.
Well, I'll tell you, my grandfather is one of the most important people in my life. He is a great man. He has lived out his faith every day. He, taught me to hunt and fish and all the things that a grandfather does. But you'll see him a lot over the next couple weeks, and I can promise you that behind the scenes he's been helping a gigantic amount. But he and I are going to be in church together on Sunday, and we're going to be out over the next couple weeks quite a bit. So don't be concerned about that anymore.
Next, let's go to Seth in Cedartown. Seth, you're on with Senator Carter.
Hello, Senator Carter. This is Seth. I just wanted to ask you, what can you say in response to Nathan Deal's remarks about your voting record in the Georgia Senate? I just wanted to see, what you would say to someone that was trying to figure out if they would like to vote for you or not.
Well, I'll tell you, my record in the Senate is clear. And, the governor has made personal attacks against me because he can't defend his own record. We're dead last in unemployment. We are dead last in how fast we're recovering from the recession. And the only thing the governor can do is try to attack me. But I have a history of bipartisan work. I have been a leader on a variety of issues, including supporting public education, reforming the Hope Scholarship to make sure we all have access to education. I've led bipartisan coalitions to rein in taxes, frankly, and spending, because nobody likes to get taxed too much, and I've been as fiscally conservative as anybody in the legislature. So I'm very proud of my record, and the governor's attempts to distort it are just that. They are sort of desperate attempts by the governor to distract folks from his record. I mean, the idea that in my view, the governor's got to take some responsibility for where our state is today. And instead of trying to blame a state senator for all of his problems, I think he needs to take some responsibility for them. And when I'm the governor, I promise you this, the buck will stop with me.
Senator Carter, we want to thank you so much for joining us on our telephone town hall tonight. Did you want to make any closing comments before you head off?
Just that I appreciate it, and I appreciate you all. And we've got a real opportunity here in this election to plant a flag in our state for working people, to plant a flag for the middle class, to plant a flag for education. The polls all say it's a dead heat. We think the governor hasn't gotten close to 50%, which means more than half of this state is dissatisfied with his leadership. And if we do the work over the next several weeks, we will win. And I implore you all to help out. And I can't do it without you, but y'all are going to be enough to make the difference. So thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing y'all in a couple weeks.
Well, thanks again, Senator Carter. Really appreciate you joining us. Again, for those of you on tonight's town hall, if you want to ask a question, you just hit 0 to be connected with one of our operators. Now President Lomax is going to introduce our next speaker for the evening.
It's my privilege to introduce another Local 1996 endorsed candidate. That's Valerie Wilson, who's running for State School Superintendent. We depend on good public schools for our children and grandchildren. Valerie is committed to restoring a good public school system once again in the state of Georgia. It's important that we pay attention to all of the candidates from the top to the bottom of the ballot. Valerie really gets it about how important good public education is to working families across the state of Georgia. Please welcome Valerie to our call.
Hi, Steve. This is Valerie, and I am really excited to be able to join you all on the call. I want to begin by just thanking you, Steve, for your support. You have been there from day one, supporting me in this campaign and making sure that I was able to get my message out. So I want to say thank you for your work early on in helping me to be at this place right now. I'd also like to thank UFCW. You all have been amazing, getting my message out, sharing my information, making sure people knew the issues and understood, and then made the decision that allowed me to stand today as the Democratic nominee for state school superintendent. So I want to say that before I say anything else. I know the reason that you all work so hard is because of your children or your grandchildren or your nieces or your nephews or just young people in your community that you want to be sure have an opportunity for successful lives. We all go to work every single day, and we all go to work with one thing in mind, and that is making sure that our children have the opportunity to have the best quality of life that they could possibly have. So thank you all for that. You have read my information, so you know what I believe and what I stand for. The public school system in the state of Georgia has seen many, many troubles, and it has been under attack for quite a while now. Over the last 10 to 12 years, you know this, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but I have to say this. We've seen $8.4 billion leave our public school system, and we've seen it the impacts of that in many ways. We've had a loss of about 9,000 teachers over the last 3 years. We've seen our classrooms maximize in size where you have 35 to 40 kids in a classroom with one educator. We've had furlough days that impact our children over the last 3 years. And when you add that up, and I did that just the other day, when you add that up, if you look at districts that have only had about 150 days over the last 3 years, and you add up those days, that's about 90 days. That's about 30 days a year. That's almost a half of a school year that we've seen children miss. And those children have lost that opportunity, that seat time that they'll never, ever be able to get back. I am focused as your next state school superintendent to go out and to fight for our funding for our children, funding for our teachers to put them back in the classrooms, funding for bus drivers who have been treated, and not only bus drivers, but all support staff, whether it's counselors or psychologists in our systems, where our children need those much-needed support service. So I'm working hard, and I will go in and fight for that. I'm also going to make sure that we are providing our children with high-quality education. It's extremely important that we do that. So we've got to have rigorous standards where we're doing that and making sure that we're supporting our teachers to be able to do that, making sure that we're preparing them and maintaining and sustaining them in our classrooms. And finally, making sure that we are bringing parents to the table in a substantive way, that we are engaging them and they are helping us to make sure that we are educating our children. At the end of the day, it's important for me, for you all to know that I am laser focused on doing what is best for all children. I get really upset when I look at what politics have done to our public education in the state of Georgia. Our little kids don't come into our classrooms as little Democrats, Republicans, Independents, or Tea Partiers. They come into our classrooms as little children that we have a moral responsibility to educate, and I am focused on making sure that we educate all of those children. That is what we should be focused on. So, again, I want to thank you all for having me on the call. I want you to know that as your next state school superintendent, I will work hard every day for every single child in our state.
Valerie, thank you very much. For those of you who weren't able to get your question to Senator Carter, we will get it to the campaign and make sure we get back with you with an answer. If you'd like to ask Valerie a question, again, you just have to hit 0 on your keypad, and you'll be directed to one of our volunteer operators. It's now time for our second phone poll question, and the question is as follows. What do you think is the most important issue the UFCW should be focused on this November? So what do you think is the most important issue the UFCW should be focusing on? Press 1 for the economy and jobs. Press 2 for raising the minimum wage. Press 3 for equal pay for equal work. And press 4 for education. Once again, we're asking the most important issue for you this November. Press 1 for the economy and jobs. Press 2 for raising the minimum wage. Press 3 for equal pay for equal work. And press 4 for education. And as the poll results come in right now, it looks like raising the minimum wage is the leader by about 10 to 15 points. Now let's take a question for Valerie. Let's go to Tammy, who has a question about charter schools versus public schools. Tammy, you're on the line. Tammy, are you there? Okay. Well, then, Valerie, maybe you could go ahead and just answer the question she had. She wanted to know your position on public schools versus charter schools.
I wish that we didn't have a question of public schools versus charter schools. I wish we had just a focus on making sure that we were providing the best quality schools as possible to be in every neighborhood. When I look at the versus, what we have done in the state of Georgia is create two systems, a system of charter schools and a system of traditional public schools. And what I believe that and my position is on that is I'm not anti-charter school. but I believe charter schools, and I'm not anti, and I need to say this, I need to do this right. I'm not anti nonprofit charter schools. I have real problems with for-profit charter schools or for-profit charter companies because they don't have any accountability to what is best for our children. For nonprofit charter schools, I believe that those should work closely with our traditional public schools. Nonprofit charter schools were created to be innovators, pedagogical innovators, centers of innovation for what we needed to be doing in our traditional public schools. And I think that we could work together to make sure that we are providing the best possible instruction if we use those centers of innovation to support our work. So I'm not anti-nonprofit charter schools. I think that we have the ability to work together to have a strong public education system. That was a long way to answer that question, but.
Well, we appreciate the answer, and we really appreciate you joining us tonight. Did you want to make any final comments before we wrap up?
The only thing I want to say is, yet again, I do appreciate the support that I have received from UFCW. It has been amazing, and it is what has helped to get me to this place today. So, again, thank you. I want to encourage everyone. Early voting starts next week. Please get out and make sure that you are voting and that you are taking at least 10 people with you when you go out to vote. Voter turnout is going to be extremely critical in making sure that we are making the strong decisions that impact the quality of life for the residents of the state of Georgia. So, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate you joining us tonight. It's now time for our final poll question, which is, are you planning to vote in this election? And I hope the answer is yes for all of you. Press 1 if you'll be supporting Jason Carter and Valerie Wilson. Press 2 if you're undecided. And press 3 if you're going to vote for Nathan Deal. Again, press 1 if you'll be supporting Jason Carter and Valerie Wilson. Press 2 if you are undecided. And press 3 if you are supporting Nathan Deal. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to President Lomax, who will make some closing remarks.
Thank you, Tim. I just want to say thanks to all of our Local 1996 members for joining the call and participating tonight. We hope you found this call worthwhile and informative. Remember, early voting begins on Monday, October the 13th. Election Day is on Tuesday, November the 4th. I encourage you to make your plans to vote and take advantage of early voting. I'd like to also ask you to check our website, ufcw1996.org, for the dates and times of early voting in your county. I also ask that you talk to your friends and family about the importance of this election for working families across the state of Georgia. Explain why they too should come out and vote for Jason Carter for governor and Valerie Wilson for the state school superintendent. Thank you for joining our call tonight.
And if we were not able to get to your question tonight, just a reminder that you'll be able to leave a voicemail at the end of this call. We thank you for joining us tonight. Get out there and vote November 4th. Good night.